Welcome to Hey Dad Podcast. Real dads, tough issues, and a genuine love for a fatherless generation.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining us. We're going to continue on the subject we had in our last show of children of divorce. There's just so much there. And we cut off, for the sake of time, the show. We wanted just to pick up where we left off, continue talking about this subject. I think it's worth talking about. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to it. And it's funny. There's rabbit holes we're running down on how to fight for your marriage, why to fight for your marriage. But they're also pertinent to this conversation because it's there. Because one is, and it's funny, we're talking to men who come from divorced households, who what we're saying resonates with them. We're coming from men who don't want to ever experience it. And hey, listen, guys, listen why the fight is worth it. Listen to the consequences of a decision of divorce. And we're speaking to guys who are doing a great job, who are hitting triples and home runs, and you want to keep hitting triples and home runs, man. You sit at this table, have this conversation with us, hear us out. It's important. I want to be sensitive, though. I know a lot of what we're saying can be frustrating to men because we're saying like, hey, it's big boy pants time. It's time to this taking a bullet's where manhood's at. But in the long run, the quality of your life, the quality of your wife's life, the quality of your children's life will reap the rewards of this. This sweat and tears comes with a reward. So we just want to continue down this. The subject is the children of divorce.
And by the way, this is Rick Rivera.
Oh yeah,
that's right. I'm Chris Lawler. My son James is right over there. You'll hear him once in a while. You might see him here and there. Yeah. He's autistic, and he always adds a special jalapeno sauce to all of our meetings.
Yeah, and we love it. And we're missing Frank, and Frank will be back very soon.
Come on back, Frank. He's having procedures where it's going to make him 10 times more manly than is humanly possible.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get 2.0 version of Frank coming back, so we're excited about that. With that being said, children of divorce, a lot of us have struggled through who've been through divorce, and I'm not talking about us divorce, but in families that were just torpedoed by divorce. Mm-hmm. And in the last episode, we talked about it. Just your whole world falls apart as a child when your family divorces. It's like the floor falling out from under you. It's like a ship hitting the rocks, and your ship just crumbles underneath your feet. And next thing you know, you're in the waves.
And the relevance for this is that being a child of divorce is what most often puts a man into a fatherless situation.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, if there was divorce happening in the house, your dad didn't have a lot of time for you. Because his dance card was filled trying to save the marriage or get out of the marriage or however he was playing it. And then when he's gone, you're lucky if you have a relationship with your dad. The common thing here in America is that the dad just goes on with his life. Yeah. And you're expendable.
Yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah.
There he goes. It's like watching something drift off in the ocean. It's just drifts farther and farther away, and it's hard. And so here we are, guys. We want to talk about that issue. We in the last episode we talked about 50% of children today are going to experience this, and it's tragic. And I'm just going to touch real fast on some of the statistics we were giving. That children of divorce are 2 times more likely to drop out of school. Children of divorce are 2 times more likelier to attempt suicide. Heartbreak. And then that we also, 70% of the population who are incarcerated in prisons come from broken homes without the regular mother-father type family. We also talked about people who say a lot, it's better for the children, we fight so much. Sorry, guys, wrong. I from the bottom of my heart, do not agree with this. I am not talking about abuse, though. Physical abuse, even emotional abuse. There's really ugly things that happen. Conversation's not about that. I'm not telling any man or woman, but it's usually women, tolerate that kind of situation. That's something that needs serious intervention, and you need space. So I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the traditional. Well, I'm tired. I'm not getting what I thought out of this. I'm frustrated. You know, she turned into such a bee after we got married. All of that. You know, guys, there's a road to healing. There's a road, a pathway to recovery in this. Don't give up hope. It's extremely discouraging, and it's extremely painful for a lot of you guys. And I want to be sensitive to that. And I want to understand that. I want you to understand that we understand that.
And if you had a dad, he would have helped you deal with the situations you're in. You know, under the best of circumstances, he would have at least given you the benefit of his experience as he went through life. But a lot of you guys, you know, due to divorce, the relationship with your dad was crippled. Many of you came into this world without any dad at all. That's the other side of this statistics, is how many boys are born to single mothers who the father split before they were even had a chance to even know who that person was.
Right.
And so without that male figure, without that leadership to blaze the trail ahead of you, to show by example, and really to show you the wounds and how they deal with the wounds, how they deal with the difficult parts of life, then you're on your own. Yeah. And you know what? When you're on your own without any example to follow, then you'll tend to just serve yourself.
Right. Right. And there's bad habits that come. This generation is a very me. Like, I'm in marriage. What do I get out of this? Yeah. You go into it wanting everything for yourself. That's the first no-no right there. This is a manhood, fatherhood. Being a husband is a sacrificial life. This is the talk from the Bible. We're called to love women. Love women means sacrifice. Love women means loving them through their weakness. You know, and there's concepts, and you learn this, and as you study scripture and you get into Christian counseling about marriage, there's concepts to understand about love languages and how your wife is loving you. Mm-hmm. Your wife will outlove you, and most times you just don't even realize it. It's not coming together for you in your mind because it's not equaling what you want.
Right.
You want to play video games and have sex.
In so many ways, man. When I got married, I put my getting married off to the back end of my life. In my mind, I was 28 years old, and this was the first girlfriend I ever had. Was my wife. Turned out to be my wife.
Wow. That's awesome.
So I held back from playing the game and being in the sport all that time, just observing from the sidelines, taking notes, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't work, and compiling all my data till eventually, when I got to be 28 years old, now I was prepared to walk down the aisle and marry my wife, Susan. I had this enormous library of wisdom and fatherly knowledge and husbandly knowledge that I had acquired. Okay, I spent all that in the first week. Okay.
It got you through week one.
I blew the whole catalog of all the wisdom I had, and at the end of that week, it's like, what the hell did I do? What happened?
It's not what I thought.
Right, not what you think at all.
Kind of like guys who, when they join the Army and the Marines and they're in boot camp, what did I get myself into? Wait, I'm supposed to be, being a war hero. What's this going on?
Because when you enter into a relationship with a woman, you're entering into a transformation mill.
Yeah.
You're literally throwing yourself into a taffy puller.
Right.
It's going to take you apart bit by bit, scramble you, reassemble you, and then break you down again.
Right.
And that's the experience.
Yeah.
And the real men that have hung tight and stayed with their wives all these years, like Rick has, like I have. I'm approaching my 40th anniversary.
That's awesome.
Not quite there yet.
That's a testament. That's awesome.
And we're not saying we did it right. We're saying we survived.
Right.
Get that. It isn't that I have all the answers, is that I just simply survived the experience. And the way you survive is by following all the wisdom that comes out of that Bible.
Yeah.
Because marriage was God's idea, not man's idea. If you go back, this is a little known secret, okay? You go way back into Genesis, and they describe the first time a man and a woman came together. There was no marriage ceremony that happened. Adam and Eve didn't come with God standing there, who gives this bride? There wasn't anybody. They were the first people. They only became married because they came together as one flesh. That's what put them into marriage, into a marriage relationship. And now we know in all our great human wisdom that when a man and a woman enter into a close physical sexual relationship with one another, body chemistry starts to align. A metamorphosis takes place. Psychological issues start to align with one another. In many ways, they start becoming married, whether or not they had a relationship or not. I mean, a ceremony or not. They become married.
Melt together, would you say?
They melt together.
Yeah.
Well, okay, here we're in a culture where that event of coming together physically, sexually is a swipe left, swipe right issue in our culture. It's interchangeable. How many times do you think you can bond like that, then tear that bond apart, then bond again with somebody and tear that apart before your bonding mechanism is absolutely a ragged, shredded mess?
Right.
And you really have a very difficult time bonding with anybody.
It breaks you. I heard it described as marriage is you're taking, let's say, a yellow sheet of paper and a black sheet of paper, and you glue them together with white Elmer's glue. You let it dry. Now try tearing that paper apart. Mm-hmm. And both papers are going to pull from each other. And it's going to be parts of the black paper still stuck to the yellow paper, and parts of the yellow paper still stuck to the black paper, and it's two messes. That's what it is. And then you're talking about that process. There's people who get divorced 2, 3, 4, and more times. You're right. How damaging is that?
Even without being married. That's the key. They get divorced every time you have a relationship with another woman, in this way. In every essence, you're marrying them.
Right.
In every essence, except for the words coming out of your mouth. As we established when we talked about communication, spoken words are the least reliable and the most deceptive form of communication there is.
Right.
But when you give yourself to somebody physically and in every other way, you're marrying them Old Testament style, Genesis style. And something happens inside your spirit, inside your body, and inside your flesh that bonds you to a person. And so when the typical guy who goes through life, who joins himself that way, then breaks apart, then joins and breaks apart, joins and breaks apart, before you know it, before they actually said I do in any church with any woman, they may have been divorced 5, 6, 10, 20 times.
You're talking about the spiritual aspect of it, and I think that's a complete blind spot to this generation coming up. I think what you're saying, a lot of people out there, it's like, what? But what you're saying is true, and they don't see it from the biblical perspective.
Right. When
you're with a woman, it's a spiritual event, and it's been so cheapened today. You don't realize how spiritual damaging,
There's no such thing as recreational sex.
There isn't, guys. There isn't. And I think, and I don't know it from the woman's perspective, but I think it has to be even more damaging from the woman's perspective because they're more in touch with that part of their feelings. Mm-hmm. Us guys, we're very visual, and things could be, we could put a thing in a box and lock that box. So, but the women, a whole different subject though. We're kind of running down a rabbit hole on that, but that's interesting. It's true. But going back to one of the other statistics we're talking about how damaging divorce is on children. This is a sad statistic, but children of divorce are 300 times more likely to suffer from a mental illness. We're talking depression. We're talking anxiety. We're talking about, guys, there's reason to fight your children. I know how much you love your children. I know you're not a perfect guy. I know you have your weaknesses. I know this, but I know you love your children and more than yourself. So understand that divorce comes with divorce is a hand grenade, and you just pull the pin and drop it in your living room, and your children are in the living room with you. It
presents an economic question. So it puts a man in a position where he's got to say, okay, you're telling me, Rick, that divorce is going to create a lot of pain, a lot of problems with my children. But staying married, on the other hand, it means I got to deal with all this crap over here that I haven't been able to deal with all this time.
Right.
So now, what's the equitable trade here? Is it worth trading this pile of agony for this pile of agony, which really isn't my agony in a sense? It's my kids' agony, which I can feel sorry for them, help them over it, but I don't have to personally feel every heartbeat in it. That's a bad situation to be in where you have to negotiate that.
And some guys, the pain of the marriage and the problems in the marriage, I can't take this anymore. Guys,
I hear you.
Exactly. We're not coming from, it's been butterflies and rainbows for us. No, we've come through challenges. We've been through this pain, and it's hard. But I do want to say this. There is healing in marriages. And even if you think there's just no way, there's healing in marriage. You could find healing, you could find restoration, and you could find actually happiness in this thing that's causing you pain. For some of you, maybe marriage is just a mild frustration or moments of frustration. But for some of you, marriage is very, very painful. But there is hope. And this can actually, what did you call it? A Gideon's knot?
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll have a knot in front of you that you don't know how to untie this knot. And it's so frustrating. But trust me, there's somebody out there who knows how to untie that knot and will sit with you and help you out. And you and your wife in this. You know, the wives have their part in this, but this is a show for men, by men. So, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell women how they're supposed to be.
Sure.
But I could tell you how you're supposed to be.
And there's a reason why it's so difficult.
Yeah.
There's a reason. Okay, we all know if you read the Bible, and I'm going to assume a whole lot of you who are watching the show are probably Christians and have read a few things in the Word before because we come from this Christian background. You witness God bending the rules of physics. He stacks up water on this side, on that side, and lets Israel pass through on dry land. Moses talks to a rock and it spits out water. I mean, all kinds of things that are actually, they're not possible at all for it to happen. But God records that he actually did do that. So why won't he come and slice right through my Gideon's knot that's got me so bound up and is causing so much pain for me, for my wife, for my kids? And none of us know the answer. We can't figure this out. Why won't you just cut through that thing and end that problem?
Yeah.
There's a reason why. I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you what, the agony that this is producing in your life is producing something inside you if you stay faithful.
Yeah.
If you stay faithful and you hold your ground and you endure this agony that's happened to you, you can open up the Bible. Maybe you can help me. It's in Isaiah where Jesus describes what it was like to be betrayed, to be there on the cross with people gambling for his clothes. Oh, yeah. In fact,
Psalms 22, I believe.
Yeah. There's a wonderful meme I've seen on Facebook before where during the shooting of the Passion movie, the movie
Passion of the Christ,
was one of the most gruesome portrayals of Christ's crucifixion. Mm-hmm. There's a little aside, a photo where Mel Gibson, the director, is talking to Caviezel, the actor who played Jesus, and he's in his full makeup. It's got the crown of thorns on his head. He's dripping blood, everything's thrashed, and Mel Gibson is talking to him. And the caption to that meme says, "This is that moment when you tell Jesus about how hard your life is." And Mel Gibson had all this trouble in his own personal life.
Right.
And when you go take all your troubles that are in your marriage and you think, this is so agonizing, I can't endure it a second. You know what Jesus is saying? I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been there for my wife. Yeah. My wife is the church.
It's the church. With all its messiness.
Yeah, I've been nailed to the cross. I've been tied to the whipping post.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to how difficult this is.
Right. I think our calling to love is a heavy calling, and it's a deep calling. But I do want to say this. I'm 25 years, Chris. You're going on 40. You said years of marriage. I'm on this side, guys, and I'm telling you, I thank God I did it this way. I thank God I toughed out the hard times. I thank God I forgave, because it's a beautiful place to be. I mean, you have a woman who you have all these years of beautiful memories, treasures you built together, and all this treasure. So I have 25 years of treasures with my wife. And I love her, and we can look back and go over these things, just wonderful things. It's such a good fight, but the context of which we're saying it though is the damaging of divorce on children and what it happens. Mm-hmm. So guys, we pray that Chris, what resources would you say are out there right now for men struggling? Man,
there are so many. There are so many. You just have to open your eyes to them. I live in LA. There's a radio show called Focus on the Family.
Yeah.
It's dedicated to solving these unsolvable puzzles.
Right.
And they run marriage seminars that are fantastic. You walk into almost any church, they're going to be able to direct you to somebody that can help you, either on their staff, or they'll know a ministry that's set up for this.
Right.
And you can get the help. And here's the beauty of this. There's things that you know, there's things that you don't know, and then there's all the things you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's that third category is what always sinks you, because you have no idea. I wasn't aware of that.
Right.
And when you're dealing with situations that you don't even have a clue, there's no hope for you to not step in that mud hole.
Right.
And you may be doing things that are such a simple fix. If you just knew which button to push, which lever to throw, you could get yourself out of that jam. And that's where the help is.
Right.
Go ahead.
I think that's great advice, though. Yeah. If you're part of a church, go speak to your pastor. Go find one of your elders and ask them. And they may refer you to a book. They may counsel you. They may assign a couple in church who's been a few more years down the road than you, who can sit and walk with you and your wife on these issues. Seek that out. Seek that out, guys. You got to go. When I say fight for the sake of this, we're not even talking, we want to cover divorce later down the road, but right now we're talking about children of divorce. But if you want to save your children from this suffering and from the damages of this, man, fight, guys. Fight. I mean, you're willing to fight a guy in a bar. Guess what? This is a fight too. And get down. Go seek from counsel from your church. Find those books. Find those conferences Chris is talking about. They're all out there.
Now, one thing I want to really underscore is that if you're in a position where this battle's kind of been lost, what's done is done. She's already gone. Maybe she's up with another guy. The marriage is kind of dead on arrival at the moment. You still have something you have to do with your kids. Yeah. And you can't abandon your kids in that wilderness.
Right. You
have to, as difficult as it is to lay down your life for a wife that is difficult, you got to be willing to lay down your life twice as much for your children who have no understanding and no ability to reciprocate to you. They can't carry your baggage. You can't go to them and talk to them about all your woes and all your emotional difficulties. In fact, you really hurt them if you do that.
Yeah.
And that often happens because I don't have anybody else to talk to. And your kids are intimately in that situation, especially if they're teenagers and they're in that age where they have a little bit of awareness. Don't you bring that garbage that you went through and pollute their life.
Yeah.
What you have to do is you have to stand as a man and do your best job to give them stability so they can enter into the struggle at the end of their teenage years when they become young adults with a chance to do it better.
That's a great point. Some guys, you're beyond this point we're talking about. And I don't want you guys to give up who you're not there. Don't pretend to be there. But I'm talking, hey, there's infidelity. The woman's already with another guy. That's done. That bridge is burnt. Man, make it the best you can. Your kids need you. Mm-hmm. Even if your kids are at that teenage age where they come down and they spend time with you and all they're doing is playing video games, your kids need you. Figure it out. Figure out the common ground you can meet them on. Be there for them. Be up in there. True, apologize to them. Man, I'm sorry me and your mom didn't make it work. Don't throw her under the bus. Just apologize.
Right.
You suffered through this, and I just, I love you more than life. Have those conversations with your
I'll tell you a story. When my mom divorced my stepdad, he was out of life. He was already with another woman living in a nearby town. And so my mom's trying to move forward. She's got 4 kids and a bipolar grandmother that are all living, and she's trying to be a family. So one time she decided she was going to make a fancy dinner, fancy as she knew how to make, for our family. And I think it was, now looking back from where I'm at now, I didn't see this at the time, she was trying to make a statement that we're still a family. Even though Dad's gone, we're still a family. We're still something that's worth moving forward with. So she set the table. She made the hamburger steaks and rice. That was our go-to meal. We were kind of poor. And called the family together. So I come down and I have my sisters there. I'm a teenager. And she said, pour the milk. So I got all the milk glasses together, put them all together, and I poured them all simultaneously like Three Stooges would do.
Yeah.
Okay, and I thought it was the funniest thing. And the milk spilling everywhere, and all of my sisters are giggling.
Yeah.
My mom came out, and her face went white. And she went to the table, and with one sweep of her forehand, just wipes all the glasses off the table against the wall. Milk went everywhere. Dishes went everywhere. And then I was laughing so hard because, when this happens, just the shock of it put me in a laughing fit. My mom went into the room and she came out with the lid from a sewing machine, big sewing machine. And she was beating me on the head with it, trying to get me to realize what I had done. Right. I finally ran out of the house because she was going to have a heart attack trying to kill me. So I came out of the house and I was across the street and my little sister came out and she didn't say anything, but she was like, 8 years old, 10 years old, something like that. She just looked at me from the front yard of my house and I'm across the street. And what her eyes spoke to me was that, brother, you got to come back. You can't run away from this. Mommy needs you.
Right.
So it took a while. I composed myself. I walked back across the street. I went back into the room. Mom wasn't there. She was up in her bedroom on the second floor. So I went up in the bedroom and she was crying on the bed. And I came and said, man, I'm so sorry, Mom. You were trying to do something nice and I just stole it like a gag setup and then busted a punchline just for a cheap laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry I did that for you. And my mom took that opportunity, instead of scolding me for what I did, she just said, I'm so sorry I couldn't keep your dad from going away.
Wow.
I'm so sorry that I couldn't make him stay for you.
Right.
And I said, if he would have been here, he wouldn't have beat you with a sewing machine lid. He would have beat you with a sewing machine.
Right.
And I said, yeah, and I probably would have deserved that. And that gives me some kind of comfort that he would do that. But I'm so sorry. Can we have dinner anyway? She got up, she wiped her tears off. We went down, reset the table, and we had a dinner and we reestablished our family in that moment.
Right.
But what happened to me in that moment is I saw my mother's pain. I'm the child of this divorce. But this agony that was happening with her was none of my business. And it was cheap for me to take advantage of it. And from my mom's point of view, there was very little she could do to make anything better.
Right.
She couldn't explain satisfactorily why my dad decided to go with another family.
Right.
She was embarrassed the fact that she was no longer chosen. She was no longer a chosen bride.
Yeah.
But she said, I'm here. I'm cooking your meal. You're going to sit at a table that I'm paying for with the tips I get from my waitress job.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to continue on as a family. And from that moment, my family went on with a new identity. Fractured, not as good as the other one. There's no way around that. But we went forward with an identity.
Right.
And we went forward in love, with love and grace for one another. And that is so important. If you're in a situation where the ship has sailed, you can't get your marriage back. The way you got to be with your kids is you have to establish that I'm still the man in your life. I'm your dad. There's nobody else that can step in and be your dad.
Right.
I'm going to be your dad. So I'm going to show you the best of life that I can show you, but I'm also going to show you the woundedness that I carry with me because I can't hide it.
Yeah.
I can't hide the fact that this all blew apart and I didn't keep it together.
Right.
But I'm still going to be your dad. I'm still going to walk with you. Now, a dad that wants to kick that moment of wisdom into a new gear walks with the Lord.
Yeah.
I'm going to lead you into the ways of the Lord. And with his grace, you'll do it better than I did it.
Right. Right. Life's filled with second chances.
Mm-hmm.
God is a God of second chances. And then you can take where you left off, as painful as it is, and rebuild. And, I would add that to that too. Your ex, painful thing to say, take care of her.
Yeah.
Take care of her. Whatever she's feeling, your kids are feeling. She's happy, your kids are happy. She's sad, your kids are sad. And that's a loaded thing to say because some guys have been wronged, But this isn't about you, man. This is really about taking care of your kids and helping your kids recover from this devastation. I think today's society takes divorce so casual.
Yeah.
And just so it's very selfishly, I've had friends who came, with a good friend of mine I grew up with, and he came up to me and he said, Rick, I'm going to get divorced. And I'm like, oh, no. And he knew, like, he came to me dreading me. I knew it. And I said, I'll say his name. His name was Ed. I said, Ed, I go, is there infidelity? He goes, no. I go, Ed, dude, this is not for you. If you need to take a break, man, but do not quit on your marriage. So I talked to my friends because he was attending another church. He said, and they all understood and they agreed. I said, Ed, I'm sorry, but they're all wrong. I go, they really are. I go, I know this is hard, but there's hope to come out of it. Well, he went through it, and things didn't work out as well as he'd wanted, and his life is not in a good place at all right now.
It's all about those things that you don't know.
Yeah.
Because when a man comes to the point and says, I have no other choice, we have to divorce. It's so horrible. I can't even explain to you. You can't judge me because you're not walking in my shoes, but it's so horrible.
Yeah.
And so I must divorce. The thing is, a man that makes a declaration like that doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
You don't know God's ability to rebond people. It's the addict's bind. I mean, how many times I've worked to some limited extent with the recovery population. And there are alcoholic people whose lives are absolutely ruined. They're in the gutter. They're homeless, just in terrible circumstances. Mm-hmm. And then something happens and they get into a recovery place and something in their mind changes, not overnight, but over a period of time. Before you know it, within a short period of time, they're preaching from a pulpit about how they recover from absolutely hopeless circumstances. But God led them through. Let me tell you, there are such a community of married people that have been in the absolute worst dregs, maybe far worse than the ones you're experiencing now.
Yeah.
But they're up on the other side of that trial, and they're looking back and saying, you can make it. You can make it.
Yeah.
Come. And many of them are extending a hand and willing to pull you through the pain of the transformation so that you'll get to the other side and end up having a marriage that has this difficulty as a polished pearl in your life.
I call those kingdom come moments. You think about the prayer from our Father who art in heaven, and it goes on to say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. God's kingdom can break into your problem on earth, as hopeless as that feels, whatever your situation is, but your marriage is one of those things. God's kingdom can break in. It could be healed. It can be repaired. It could be new again, and it can actually be good again. So that's God, but it's funny. It's a very broken place you reach when you just fall at the feet of Jesus and say, Lord, help me, help.
Right.
But it's also a good place to be. You're humble. You're before God.
Yeah.
You're real before God.
We talked about this, between the tapings, that our culture is full of songs about the beginnings of love.
Yeah.
About falling in love and the first moment your heart is swept away and the first encounter you have with them. And very few people ever write stories or songs about love 15 years down the line that has gone through minefields and train wrecks and betrayal and all manner of horror shows, but they're going strong afterwards. That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I throw down a gauntlet of challenge to musicians and artists. Tell that story.
Yeah. Because
that's a story that encourages people to pass through the pain of transformation. You literally have to be changed into a different person.
Yeah.
You can't. The last married couple that was in a really bad situation that came to us for counseling, my wife's a MFT. I talked to the man, she talked to the woman. And they said, what's our hope? What's our hope? Are we going to get back together? And I said, the marriage you have is dead. It's dead. The hope is not in resurrecting that dead thing. The hope is inhabiting something brand new. Something that it will rise from the ashes. It won't look anything like the first thing that passed away. But it'll be something so strong, so valued that it's holy.
Right.
and something that looks so much like the story of Jesus on that cross.
Right.
When you look at that example of what Jesus, man is such a train wreck. What the world looks like is so far from the original imagination of God when he put us here, what he thought was going to happen. It went horribly wrong.
Right.
It went so horribly wrong. Really, none of us deserve to move to the next chapter.
Right.
Wages of sin is death. Of any sin is death. And yet, God, in his wisdom, demonstrated to us. He knew it. It wasn't like he had to discover it. He knew it. He knew that we would need to see this picture.
Yeah.
We need to see this picture. And this picture is the husband figure that loves his wife. That's Jesus and his church. What is Jesus willing to do to save that wife that hates him, that is actually putting the nails in his hands?
Everything.
He's willing to do it all.
Everything. Exactly.
And if you are able to do it all, then you encounter God's resurrecting power.
Right.
Which has nothing to do with human power at all.
But we're talking about superhuman things here. What we're talking about is not by your own strength. We're weak by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Where, I'm talking about by God's presence in your life, in your marriage life. Let God bring in the healing. And it's okay to say, Lord, I need you bad on this. But like we were talking about, it's funny because we're kind of drifting into like more marriages that are further down the train wreck road, if you will. And we talked about, marriages that are in the early stages and early prevention. I think it's so much better to just grasp to the early prevention. And both cases, though, get into church, talk to the pastor. Yeah. There's a million couples like Chris and his wife and me and my wife who run alongside young marriages like that.
Right.
And we could be those mentors in your life, not from our perfection, but from the trials we've been through. And we embrace it. There's a lot of churches like that. And if that church you're at doesn't offer that, or you visit a church and it's not there, find another one.
Right.
But you have to humble yourself. You have to stop. And men, I challenge you on this. Stop. Hey, pastor, come here, man. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I got a problem, and I need your guidance. And then if maybe you run across one who's like, oh well, go to another church. There's a lot of really wonderful churches.
Your kids need to see this happen.
Yes,
they're the children of divorce. They're saying, okay, I see you guys are in a really horrible place. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah,
and they're watching what you do about it.
Right.
And if you're not digging in and finding a way to get in, that means you're digging out.
Yeah,
and they're observing you. And what kind of a lesson comes away in their life?
Right.
If they see that you no longer dig to restore and to resurrect a damaged marriage, they learn from you that when it gets bad, just dig your way out.
And don't be passive about it. Yeah. Don't be passive about it. This is something, guys, being quiet and just letting it ride is not going to fix it.
Yeah.
You gotta be proactive about it, If maybe it's a little too intense for you to go, find a webinar, find a seminar. Just look up marriage problems, and my gosh, you'll see all kinds of things pop up on the internet for you. I would suggest follow something godly though, that's biblically principled. I believe that's hands down by far the best because there's a spiritual dynamic to your marriage, that there's healing and there's joy that comes from it. And you can't ignore that part. It's so.
And this doesn't depend upon your partner's participation at all, really.
Yeah.
Man, brothers that we're speaking to that didn't have a dad, you got a dad right here speaking to you in the microphone. We're saying this really doesn't have anything to do with your wife. What she's not doing or what she is doing or how she's irritating you. This is about you rising past being a boy that simply has his needs met.
Yeah.
And becoming a fountain, something that pours from within your soul and comes out.
Right.
When that tide is coming out, nothing can touch it.
Right.
And that's the water. Be the stone that Jesus speaks to, that the water of life comes out of.
Yep.
Don't be the dry dirt waiting for somebody to throw water on me.
Right. Right.
Be the source.
Yeah, exactly. Don't wait. Don't be passive, guys. I mean, there's a time to fight for men, and these are one of those fights. Step in there and fight.
Your kids will love you for it. Your kids will learn a lesson. Even if, for whatever reason, your story, your marriage comes to an end in your story. If you fight well if you fight with everything you've got, and even in defeat, you act with nobility, love, and compassion towards the person that was involved in your life that tried their best, your kids will look at this. And that's how you break that chain.
Right.
That chain of disaster.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just got to put your head down and swing. It's okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay to lose. I'm kind of transitioned into the what I used to tell my kids, it's okay to lose, but put down your head and swing, go fight. And sometimes you got to get a little fire in your belly, man, and you got to fight. And
that's what it is to be a man. That's why we're doing this show. If you're a guy that didn't have a dad, who's telling you this?
No one. What you're hearing is this. Oh, she's a bitch. Just walk away. You're getting the worst advice out there.
Yeah.
Or guys don't know what to tell you because they don't know that there's a Holy Spirit and there's a God moment that can actually come in and bring healing into your life. They don't understand that.
Right.
It's hopeless. This is gone. You guys have gone through this too long. What I'm sitting here to say is, man, like you're saying, there's a fountain of power. There's a fountain of truth that you can come and drink from, man, and you can get this help, and it can restore and rebuild your marriage. And I don't think it's a magic pill that you're going to find taking everything's going to be pretty. It's a road. It's a road, but it's a road of discipline. It's a road of learning. It's a road where you come to God and you submit your marriage before God, and you let the healing come.
This is what love is really for. Yeah. Love is not about all the sweet romantic moments. That's just pure enjoyment.
Right.
You don't even need to be in love to have enjoyment like that. But what you need love for is when this life gets really hard.
When it gets hard.
Love is a heavy-duty industrial piece of equipment.
Right.
That's greasy, that's dirty, that's beaten and battered, and it's in your holster.
Right. Exactly.
Pull out love like Jesus pulled out love. When he got on that cross, that was nothing enjoyable about that.
Right.
But that was an act of love, a pure love for somebody who was clueless.
Sacrificial love, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is what you need love for.
It's funny, like guys sometimes think, I'll defend my wife and I'll fight. Man, finding counseling is fighting for your wife. Yeah. You'll take a bullet for her. Well, go find a counselor for her.
Right.
Go get a marriage counselor for her, for your children, as this is the topic.
If you had cancer, would you be I'll just operate on myself. Give me the butter knife. I'll cut myself open and figure it out.
Go to a doctor, and if that doctor's not good, you find a doctor who's better.
Yeah.
Fight, guys, fight. But I want to go back to the guys who are like, okay, man, these are dramatic things you guys are saying. Mine's not that bad. Perfect. Be proactive.
Yeah.
Be proactive. Step in.
Make it better.
Yeah.
And always be digging in.
Right.
Every day you wake up, you're either digging in or you're digging out.
Right.
So make every day a day you dig in. You water that garden. You feed it. You compliment it.
Right.
You love that garden sacrificially. If you do that consistently day after day, how's any woman going to kick you to the curb?
No. I think women are energized, especially if a man says, let's go to counseling, or there's a marriage seminar I want to go to. Right. I think I can't speak 100%, but I think women light up, man, because that's an emotional, because a lot of times men shut off emotionally to women, and they're dying of starvation for emotional connection. And if a guy says, hey, let's go talk about our problems to us, we men will dread this. But man, women just they light up.
Yeah.
I'm going to be heard. I need you to hear me. I have things to say. I want to hear you. And so guys, it's kind of contrary to where way we are. But fight, guys.
Well, that leads me to a thought. We got to do a show at some point where we talk about how to fight with the one you love. How to fight with the one you love.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
With tender,
but we're not going to get into that
gloves.
right now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, there's so much we could go on. But I think we're going to call it here right now.
Yeah,
is that good, Chris? Yeah, good. We're just going to close in prayer, guys. I'll close out after you finish your prayer.
Yeah, Father, Lord, man, we just spill out so many words out of our mouth. But there's this vast depth of wisdom that goes beyond words that everyone has a right to ask of from you. So, Father, I pray that you would you put a lamp under every man's foot who is in trouble, that wants life to be better, wants to be successful in their marriage or in any relationship, and you lead them to where to find you, where to find your counsel. And use the people that are here that are have those treasure chests, but also just speak to them directly, God. In your holy name, make this a resurrection moment in their relationship.
Yes, Lord.
That's what we pray in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name. Amen. Guys, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry, I think we went down a bit of a rough road with this topic, but hey, we're all big boys. We can handle this.
Yeah.
And this is a fight worth fighting for. So guys, step up, fight my brothers, be encouraged. And hey, if you have comments or thoughts on this, please drop them in the comment section. Also, whether you like, subscribe, all that stuff, keep all that going. But join in and let's have a community conversation about this. Yeah. All right. We love you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Adios.